Hello and welcome to REGO-FIX TechChat. My name is David McHenry. I am the Engineering and Technical Manager here at REGO-FIX USA. Have you ever looked at your ER collets in your toolbox and questioned what type of collet do I have? Is it a regular ER collet or is it a metallic sealed collet? This is actually a question we get asked quite often. So today, let's look at how to tell the difference. If we start with a regular collet, so let's start with a regular ER32 collet in this case, and we look at the different slots that are on the collet. You have slots that go from the bottom edge up towards the nose, and you have slots that start at the nose and come down towards the tail of the collet. Now, the length of those slots on a standard collet go almost the entire length of the collet. There's very little material left at the bottom or the top. That gives the collet its flexibility and gives it, in this case, that 1 millimeter clamping range. So it allows it to move to grab a hold of the cutting tool. Now, that also means when I take this collet and I put it into my ER holder, the slots from the bottom, if you'll notice when I drop it in, I can still see those slots above the gauge line of the tool holder itself. That means that any coolant that comes through this slot can escape into the nut cavity and blow out through the slots in the top of the collet. So pretty easy to say, as we already know, a regular collet is not metallic sealed. If I look at a metallic sealed collet, now I can obviously see right off the bat there's a difference in these slots. The ones that start from the top of the collet and go towards the tail, well, they look a lot like a regular collet, but the ones that start in the back and go towards the nose of the collet, well, they're much shorter. They're stopping way before the gauge line of the ER collet itself. That means if I follow that slot as I put it in, you're going to see that it actually vanishes below the gauge line of the collet. That's where the metallic sealed property comes in. As that coolant finds this channel and comes up, well, it doesn't have anywhere to go. It's sealed in the back part of the tool holder or in the collet cavity itself, meaning it has to find an exit, which would be through your cutting tool and the coolant holes inside of your cutting tool, or the coolant bore holes if you happen to have a coolant bore collet. So, a couple things to look for. One, regular collets, when they go in, the slots, you can all be seen from the top of the collet. You can see I have all 16 of my segments. I can see all the slots available in that. If I look at a metallic sealed collet, well, I can't see all 16 segments. I only see 8 segments, meaning it's sealed down below in the collet itself. Now, as far as clamping range, now we already said that a regular ER collet has a 1 millimeter range. Well, if my slot lengths are changing, what happens to my clamping range? On regular, larger size tools, instead of having a 1 millimeter range, I only have a 0.5 millimeter range on bigger diameters, that is. When I get to the small diameters, in this case, this is an ER16, and it is a 4 millimeter size, well, I don't have any range on this collet. It's actually a nominal. And the best place to find out which collets are nominal size and which ones have a clamping range is to go to the catalog and look in the metallic collet section of our catalog under the ER section. I've grabbed my catalog and I've opened it up. In this case, for our current catalog, it's on page 144 is where it starts. And I have all my different charts for my metallic sealed collets. What's really important is that each one of these charts gives you the clamping range. So you can see, for example, ER16s that we were just talking about. anything smaller than a 4mm, well, it doesn't have a range. Technically, it has an H9 range, but that's just enough to move to hold on to the cutting tool, but no real clamping range. Everything bigger than 5mm has that 0.5mm range, and if you look at the slots, well, you can see why. There's not enough material movement, or that can move, with the few slots that are in an ER16, so it really does make a lot of sense. Look at ER32s that I also have up here on display, and we can see that everything smaller than a 7mm only has that H9 range, and anything larger will have that 0.5mm. So again, the catalog becomes a resource and a good place to go to find out how much range I have on my collets. Now, why is any of this important as far as being able to identify what collet I have? I mean, if the cutting tool fits, I can use it, right? Well, if you think about the laser marking on the face of the collet, it's exposed most of the time when you install it in the nut, meaning that chip wash has the possibility of damaging that laser marking where maybe you can't read it properly. But if I can look at the collet and I can identify a standard collet versus a metallic sealed collet, it might help me with my tool setup. If you have any questions at all on identifying what type of collets you have, how regular collets work, or helping select metallic sealed collets, please reach out to your REGO-FIX technical team. We are here to help.